Hey guys, this is Kyle Skelly with Innovating the Outdoors, and we are going to go over the updated Flexi tether locker. So the new updated Flexi tether lockers are going to feature a piece of black Amsteel 7/64 with black TPU. And you'll see that we have it embossed across the height of the rubber piece there. It just made it more cosmetically appealing. Some other features that are different on this versus our old is the length of the tether itself. So we made it about an inch longer with a bigger eye where it'll girth hitch around the rope. We'll go over why that stuff's important and the reason for those changes. Another big change is the actual material. So you'll notice on the older ones we were using this gray material, now we're using a black TPU. The gray material was a much softer durometer, and that really made it nice snapping on, but the problem was it wanted to have a tendency to want to roll off as you were sliding it down. So we went with a stiffer durometer TPU, and now the sliding action is much more smooth as well as the gripping action. So now it has a lot more spring per se to snap back onto that rope. So it'll still accommodate 8mm to 11mm rope. So that covers basically all of the ropes out there. I'm using predominantly Oplux or Tuffelberger. Sometimes I'll pull out my Canyon Elite, but it's working great on both of those. So that's a pretty wide spread there. I think the Elite's like a 10mm and the Oplux is an 8mm. So works just fine on both of those. So what we'll do is we'll get into the details on this, and we will also show how this combines really nicely with our Amsteel pull down rope. So we also started offering this in conjunction with this. The full system eliminates hardware, eliminates any carabiners you may need, and also eliminates the tangle at the bottom of the tree that I would experience whenever I was using Dynaglide or a smaller diameter rope along those lines. So we'll get into the installation of the ohm onto our rappel rope, and then also how we're using it and what these differences mean for you guys. All right guys, so we're gonna go over the installation here. So first off, I got my ohm, I have my rappel rope. This is going to be your scaffold knot right here, tied onto your quick link up here. So what we're gonna do is I prefer to put the opening of the quick link facing outward. You can adjust this afterwards. This is just how I like to install it. So I'm going to take the loop end, so not the spliced end down here. That's for where you're gonna hook up your pull down rope. So the loop end, you're gonna pass it underneath. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring the ohm up through the eye, pull all my slack through, and now I'm going to bring the ohm up over underneath the rope and through the eye. And as I'm pulling this, all I'm going to do is just kind of dress it up a little bit. So what this is going to create is basically a prusik. So from here, just give it a nice tug, and now you have a nice dressed mini prusik. Slides, doesn't fall. Every time you pull it down, it gets a little bit tighter and dresses that up for you. So works really nice. You could probably squeeze in a third loop if you wanted to, but that's the installation. All right guys, so we're gonna go over the application of the ohm. So the way I have it set up, we showed you guys the installation, how we're installing it on with the double girth hitch, basically creating a prusik, which gives us that friction so that we get rid of that slop. So big upgrade with the upgraded size and the eye there. Secondly, another great upgrade was the upgrade to the actual material itself, to the TPU. So the harder durometer really gives us that ability to easily manipulate this. It holds, it doesn't have an easy time popping off, and when it does, it's very forgiving to get back on. So really like that. it is a good mix between the hard plastic ones and the softer rubber ones that we originally were making. So what we got going on here is, as I'm climbing up, so I get to the top of my stick and I'm getting ready to adjust, all I do is I slide my ohm down. With the upgrade in the length of the tether on the tether locker here, is it now gives me that space. Now I can take a lot of slack out. I can lift my rope up. What I like to do is I hold the tension on the rope, slide my ohm back up into place, and it holds that rope. Now this isn't falling down. My quick link's not banging off my platform. It's a very, very nice system. Now I'll repeat that 2 or 3 times until I get up to my hunting height, whatever, you know, whatever the situation dictates. Now when I'm getting ready to rappel down, this is where we mentioned earlier the Amsteel pull down rope that we just released a little while ago. So 7/64, roughly 30 foot, comes with a nice bungee ball to keep everything dressed up nicely. This bungee ball is made out of TPU as well, so if it hits off plastic, it's not going to make a sound like the plastic bungee balls that are on the market. So what we do here is we basically just undo that bungee ball. I grab the end that does not have the bungee ball on it. So typically that's 180 degrees from the other side of the bungee ball itself, right here. And as long as you figure eight it when you drop, it's going to fall down however high you are. You know, 20 foot, you're not going to have a tangled mess like you would with a Dynaglide. Traditionally, people would just hook on a carabiner here and hook it right into the loop of the ohm. That's great, it works great. I prefer to do a carabinerless method, and all you're going to do is I pop off my ohm, and you have the eye of the ohm, and you have the eye of your Amsteel pull down rope. You're going to pass the eye of the Amsteel pull down rope through the eye of the tether locker. So through it. Next, you're going to pass the tether locker through the eye of the Amsteel pull down rope. This is going to create a nice hitch, just like that. And now I've created a connection, a very solid connection, as strong as the Amsteel, without the use of a carabiner. So now I've eliminated a carabiner in my system, and we go over how I use this as a bow hoist in our Amsteel rope video that we'll link down below as well. Now I get down, I rappel down, and I just pull. It's a nice firm connection. The prusik that we created on the installation bites really well into the rope. It's right behind the scaffold knot, right where you want it, and that's going to pull the quick link away from the tree. That's what you want. You want to pull the quick link away from the tree. You don't want to have this hooked up to your quick link. I see people do it. I don't prefer it. The reason is because what I see tend to happen is it really will bind this. It'll bind the quick link, and then you almost create a little pinch point between the rope and the quick link. And then it can be very cumbersome, especially on like a shaggy bark tree or even a softer bark tree where this is going to bite in. It becomes very problematic. So if I go behind the scaffold knot, let me get this back up real quick. What that does is it actually, let me get tension on this, it pulls the quick link away from the tree. And that's what you want. You start to pull that away, it opens up, and then it falls down right into your lap. So with that being said, that goes over the upgrades we've made to the tether locker. They've been some much needed upgrades. This has definitely been an adaptive project over the past few months. We went from a plastic to a soft rubber to now a more firm rubber. We've made the updates in the length, in the eye size, so that we can now really easily manipulate this onto our rope and it stays where we want it to be. So with that being said, guys, that's it until the next product release. Thank you, and we'll be back here shortly with some new product.